Gary, here we are at the launch, the McLarenMP4-28. Jensen says it's the best car that McLaren have ever built. That's a big statement, isn't it?
Big statement.
Shall we have a look around and see what's new? Start at the front here.
I'm pretty impressed actually, to be honest. Overall, this car, it's not quite complete yet, but you know, this is the launch, as you say, so before it starts running, I'll have a few other bits going on to it. But the front wing assembly, this is last year's front wing assembly. There's a new one in development. They haven't quite got it finished yet. And the front wing this year has to stand to a new test. Prior to in 2012, you had a one load test here to see the wing didn't bend, basically. But now that load test has been split into two positions to try and stop the rotation of the wing. Because sometimes you're trying to get a bit tricky with it, and it's something that really can be not well engineered for cause problems. So this front wing will change before the first race for sure.
So we won't see the new front wing until
the last test
in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving backwards, I criticised them last year because they didn't take advantage of the chassis height. They didn't make the chassis as high as it possibly could be. This year they have. It's got this vanity panel on it to make it look nice, which obviously it's only a very thin skin, but it does make the car look a bit better. The front suspension-wise, it allows them to mount the suspension a bit higher. They've also gone to a pull rod front suspension a la Ferrari. This member here, it pulls the suspension that's mounted inside the chassis. So in doing that, all these components here are about managing the airflow that's coming off the front wing, realigning that airflow to go to the side points. And the front brake ducts themselves, if you imagine there's a lot of airflow coming along here, hitting this front tyre, it's trying to disperse around the tyre. And this brake duct here has to manage that airflow. Now they've made the brake duct itself inside here. You need to have a gap here because the tyre is deflecting going around corners. You need to have that gap, so you might as well put your brake duct in here, so it makes this a much better surface to manage that airflow and bring it around the back of the tyre, because there's a low pressure area here, so you want to take that airflow around the tyre and put it back into this position. So all these products are about airflow management.
So aerodynamics improvement at the front, presumably that obviously has to follow through to the back of the car as well.
Yes, it goes right through the car obviously, but this is where it starts, and you manage that airflow all the way through the car. Now if you take the side points themselves, they're quite different in the fact that you have to have a crash structure. So as the driver goes into the crash barrier at the side of the car, there's some tubes inside of here to decelerate the car before he hurts himself, basically. Sergio Perez and Jensen both had accidents in Monaco, side impacts that meant they banged their head on the side of the Monaco. So these impact tubes here are very cleverly done, because the further rearward you can get the radiator intake, the more time you have to manage that airflow and make it work for you with these turning vanes, etc. So by doing this here, it allows the radiator intake to be further backwards. These barge boards help that airflow out from underneath the chassis. So it's all about airflow management, this area. And that takes you through this undercut of the side pod right through into the rear suspension, which is
Thank you.
which is another novel new component to have in this car. Before, the suspension was a top wishbone, a lower wishbone and a drive shaft. And now, a bit like Red Bull, they have incorporated the drive shaft and the lower wishbone altogether. So there's less blockage for the airflow going through this section. Pull rod rear suspension. But inside here's an interesting little thing, because the wishbone's all carbon fibre, it's all there for aerodynamic reasons, but you've got to manage the rear tyres. And last year, the rear tyres were the big problem. Traction was very difficult. Inside of here there'll be a mounting for the top wishbone much further in, giving more camber change. So in other words, the rear tyres, as you go faster, the rear tyres will put more camber on them for the corners, but as you go slower they'll sit more upright, giving better traction. So it's all around the car, there's good development.
Yeah, you're nodding a lot, so you obviously approve.
I'm going away from here seeing a very good package that can be developed fairly well. I mean, everything on it has got an opportunity. Last year I criticised the chassis being low because it takes away an opportunity to get better airflow management through the car. This year they don't have that penalty. So I think, yeah, it's a good step forward.